Welcome to Access Your Leadership, where we share inspiring career stories and talk about the ways you can level up your own leadership potential. I'm your host and coach, Hakeem Lokhtar, and today's topic is Restaurateur and Leader, how he does it. Joining me today is Fil Ip. Goes by Phil for short. He's a restaurateur here in South Florida, a good friend of mine. Phil, so happy to have you here.
Hey, Hakeem. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here and looking forward to the rest of the show.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. So I love starting off each episode with this question of having my guests share one leadership win they've had recently, whether it's leading yourself or leading others. But what comes to mind when you think about a recent leadership win?
Yeah, I think leadership win one recently. It's really not business related. As you said, I am a restaurateur. Most of my hours are spent in the business from the morning. From the mornings, I wake up and thinking about work, all the way till I go to sleep is always work related. But recently, I picked up tennis, a sport that I've always wanted to learn to play, and I just picked it up earlier this year. A little leadership win that I had is I actually reached out to the community that I live in, and I created a little WhatsApp group for the tennis courts that we have in our community. Totally non-business related, just something for fun for me, and it's a good way of getting myself outside of my comfort zone, meeting people who have a similar pleasure in tennis that I do. And yeah, so far it's only been a 1 month since this group I created, but so far I've been meeting people from all different backgrounds, all different industries. Like I said, I'm mostly in the restaurant, food and beverage industry, but it's nice to meet people who are doing something else, but also share the same passion in tennis.
Yeah, I
So
love that. I was not expecting tennis, so it's nice to hear because when you think, leadership win, and again, I even when I say self leadership, people immediately gravitate to something business related, and to recognize the value in exploring things outside of like what your day to day looks like running these various establishments, it adds that kind of that depth and value to your hours in the day when you can do something that you enjoy. That's awesome.
yeah, I think it's right. Like you, not what I expected either myself. I mean, we're so focused on business most of the times as business leaders, but sometimes you want to take a break. But you can also apply your leadership skills outside of work,
Yeah.
whether it be in your family, in your friends, in your community, in your local church, wherever it may be. Once you have the opportunity, by all means, go for it.
Yeah. And you mentioned getting out of your comfort zone. It reminds me of when I stepped on the jujitsu mat, having never done any martial arts and thinking to myself, what am I doing here? This is not where I'm supposed to be. But then the minute I had that thought, I thought, if I'm feeling out of my comfort zone, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. This is where I should push myself and I should really strive to explore something that is unfamiliar to me because that's where the growth occurs, right?
Right, absolutely. I think I've been with you on the mat once, and you've been doing it for a while, I believe.
Yeah, I
Correct?
started earlier this year, so it's been more than 9 months now, and I got my first stripe recently. So it's progress, and and
Congrats.
and again, the desire is not to master necessarily the sport, but it's actually to just sort of explore what you learn about yourself through that new endeavor, through that new journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's something where you can, take a break from what you do on a day-to-day basis
Yeah,
and relax your mind in a way, which is nice.
yeah,
It's a break that we all need.
yeah. So speaking of journey, I know you've had a really interesting journey in terms of where where your family's from, also what you went to school for, and what you're doing now. Can you share a little bit about sort of your origins and how that journey kind of evolved over time to where you are now?
Yes, a little bit about myself, my journey. So I was born in Canada, Vancouver, Canada, but my parents are from Hong Kong. However, I grew up in Venezuela, in South America for 14 years. And then from there, we came here to the United States. The politics weren't going on the right path for what my parents thought was right. And so they decided to move us out here to the United States, the land of dreams, right, for a
Mhm.
lot of immigrants. And since 2003, 20 years ago, we've been here. I went to school in Florida State University, graduated as a
Go
chemical
Knowles.
engineer.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're a Noel as well. Yep.
Yep.
So graduated as a chemical engineer, worked for Dow Chemical Company out in California, a very big company, Fortune 100 company.
Yep.
Did that for about 4 years. And growing up, I always watched my dad. He's an entrepreneur. He really started from zero and made something out of himself. And just watching him, as a kid, you don't really realize it, but as you grow older, you see all the sacrifices your parents do for you.
Yeah.
And so watching him be an entrepreneur all his life, and that's something that just stuck to me as I grew up. And so I was working in the corporate world as a chemical engineer. Few years doing that, find that the desk job was just not for me. And I'm sure you can relate as well.
Yep.
We've talked about this briefly
Yeah.
before. And so decided in 2015 to take a leap of faith. I got into the restaurant business. It was initially a family restaurant business, but over the years, since 2015, we have grown to about, we're getting to our seventh location this year.
Wow.
Parents have retired, finally throwing the throne away, or passing the throne down, I guess, to me. They have the confidence of trusting me and running the operations, the business. And ever since then, it's something that, like I said, my background was in engineering. I had no experience in restaurants, and I just had to figure it out the hard way per se. A lot of long hours in the restaurant business. We just never close. It's 7 days a week. It's ongoing. It's this and that. Thankfully, got lucky enough, fortunate enough to be able to hire a team to help me to delegate my tasks and focus on the growth of the business, on the streamlining the business as well, and letting the day to day for my team.
Beautiful. I love that, obviously that resonates with me too, being first generation. My father coming here, so to the land of opportunity, the land of dreams, from Morocco, and making a way for himself and his family. And so when you were thinking about that transition that you had decided to make, kind of relocating from California back east and leaving the corporate world and kind of venturing into the family business, what was that conversation like with yourself? What was that conversation like with your family?
No, it was a difficult decision, but some of it had to do with my dad. He wanted me to, in Asian culture and Chinese culture, we always want to pass down our legacy. So in this case, it would be my dad's business. So he always wanted to pass down, especially me being the oldest of three siblings. It was just part of the title. It came with it, I suppose. And so part of it was I was not, I wouldn't say forced to, but I was expected to join my dad's business and take over the throne, so to speak. But also a difficult decision just to leave what I was doing, what my profession was, and becoming an entrepreneur. As you know, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a leader is not easy. There's always risks involved. I wouldn't say there's failures, but there's lessons to be learned on this rough road. And it was a decision that I had to take, that I decided to take, just for the better of my future, the better of the family that I want to create, and the lifestyle that comes with it. Thankfully now, I'm not stuck on a desk, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
which is nice. You have weekends off, of
Yeah.
course, but as an entrepreneur, you have some flexibility at certain times of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start a new business, you always have to put the hours in. You always have to start up something new from ground zero. You wear a lot of hats in the beginning, but if you get lucky enough, if you're fortunate enough, you can, you know, create a team and start delegating some of these tasks
Yeah.
in order to have your own work and life balance.
I love that. So in those early days, how many locations did you have? And what were some of those early challenges, uncomfortable situations that you found yourself in, and how did you overcome those?
So back in 2015, when I first started, first time stepping into a restaurant, let's say a restaurant kitchen, and just seeing how everything worked, everything was new to me. Working the systems in place, it was just chaos. So I remember the first day we opened, it was just chaos everywhere. Customers were angry, they were yelling, they were asking where their food was, where their servers were. I mean, it was pretty hectic. And so in the beginning, it was a lot of it was a curve, a high curve to learn, a lesson curve, and a lot of mistakes were made. But like I said, these are just lessons you learn as you get into a business. And as long as you learn the mistakes, implement systems to correct them. Of course, a lot of leadership is involved. A lot of people were looking at me like, "Hey, how are you a leader without knowing what you're doing?" All the whole staff is basically has their eyes on you,
Yeah.
and it's just chaos everywhere. It's very stressful in the beginning, I would say, and it takes time to build that trust with your team. Of course, some don't have the patience; they leave, which I'll be open. Some employees left; they knew it was chaotic, but some of them stuck with me,
Mm,
and actually have been with me. I still have, I can say, 3 employees that are still with me since 2015, so 8 years
amazing.
ago, that have just stuck with me. They've been through the look. We look back at it now, we laugh about it, we joke about it. It's all fun now, but in the beginning, it was a lot of long hours. In the restaurant business, it's 7 days a week from open to close,
Yeah.
sleepless nights. And I think it was after the opening, that getting the opportunity to open the second location is when I really started to realize that I really needed to delegate.
Yeah. You mentioned
Just
you
fit.
mentioned you mentioned trust too. I mean, when you say trust, I think trust in terms of your relationship with your staff,
Mhm.
but trust also there's a piece of that like trusting the process, trusting yourself. What did you know, Phil, about yourself that kept you comfortable and confident enough in putting one foot in front of the other that you'd eventually get the hang of it?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you pointed out. And the way I see things in life is I look at other leaders, other role models or even other companies. Maybe it doesn't have to be a specific person, but it could be another company that, we all start from zero, right?
Mm,
We're all born as a baby. And then we go to school, we develop skills, we gain some knowledge. We all have in a sense, if we're born in the United States or if we grow up here, we all have the same opportunities, right?
yeah.
And so when I look at these other companies, they're all built by people, by leaders who have gone through the same process. And so they're also human beings. Sometimes we aspire to these leaders, to Elon Musk, to Jeff Bezos, to Bill Gates. I mean, of course, these are more extreme, but they're also human beings at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
And so the way I see it is I kind of calm myself down where, well, if they can do it, maybe I'll just do it to a certain extent of what they can do,
Yeah.
not to the Bill Gates level or Elon Musk where they're changing the whole world. But if I look at a local company that is successful, for instance, Panda Express, I read their story. They started from one location and now they're at hundreds, thousands around, I mean, across the whole world, actually.
Yeah.
And they're just like us, an immigrant family from China, from Hong Kong. Actually, she's also from Hong Kong, and it kind of inspires me to say, hey, it is possible. At the end of the day, we put our limits in our mind, really. And as long as we realize these limits are just in our mind, and we break these barriers, then we can. The sky's the limit,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's beautiful. I love that because like imagine people listening right now thinking about their own leadership journey, whether they're well on their way in their leadership journey or just starting out, and thinking this feels a lot more challenging than I thought it would be, or I don't even know what I don't know. Where do I go from here? And when you mention some of these visionaries and celebrity leaders like Bezos and Musk and Bill Gates, I think what I'm hearing also is that you recognize that you could do it too, and doing it in your own way. It doesn't have to be that you're
Right.
replicating the way in which another leader leads, but that they're but they're showing you that it can be done. Leading, growing, expanding, learning, all of that, which was necessary for you to be successful in this new venture, this new path you've forged for yourself, but that you had to do it in your own way, a way that worked for you.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I think it goes a little, it touches a little on, how we met, you and I, Hakeem. We met in a group of leaders, and just being surrounded by these individuals in this group, watching you, watching others in the group, it also motivates myself. Like, hey, you guys are doing it, then why can't I?
Mm,
Well, what makes you so special? Both of us, we're both family men. We're both human beings, if you go down to the bare bones. And so it's also encouraging as well, watching you grow, watching myself grow, watching others grow. It's empowering.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. And the same is true for me. I mean, I was excited for this conversation specifically for that reason. I mean, it's been amazing listening to you share your journey and talk about the ways in which, your business has grown, but you have grown. And you mentioned family. So tell me a little bit about your husband, your father. How does what you do in the restaurant business as a restaurateur now with what, 6 locations going on 7?
Right, right.
Now, how do you create time for family and in between all of what you have to do and manage between these other restaurants?
Yeah, I think we all, a lot of us, no, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of us go through a similar challenge, I would say, especially when kids get involved in the picture. From my experience, my priorities have changed. I used to be fully 100% focused on the business. Back then, my girlfriend, she would come second. I hope she doesn't see this podcast, but maybe she will. But she knows it. I just put business first. I wanted to focus on my career. They come really. I was looking into the future. I wanted to stabilize, have a stable career in order to support a family that I wanted to create with her. At the end of the day, that's what my goal was. And so I think when we got married, everything is fine and dandy. We're all happy. And then when we had our second daughter, things changed. Um, Especially, I can share a little. We lost our first daughter in 2019, and it was heart wrenching,
Yeah,
a very difficult moment for my wife and I.
no, I'm sure. I'm
Thankfully,
sorry.
we decided to have a second one. And her name is Clove now, and we're watching her grow now. She's 2 years old. It
Wow.
puts things in perspective.
Yeah,
After going through an incident like that, you really kick back a little, and you reprioritize your life. Business is always going to be there, but family, I think it's a matter of time. As your kids grow older, and I'm sure you can relate, Hakeem, yourself. As your kids grow older, time flies. We all parents say it. Enjoy the moment. Time is going to
yeah,
go by really fast. And I mean, next thing you know, they're in college, and after they leave for college, you barely see them. You might see them during the holidays, or you might not. Some don't even come back for the holidays, and then eventually you hope they find a partner. That they start a family of their own. They're happy, and I think life moves on. It's just part of the cycle. So right now, back to your question, how do I balance the work I have with the family? I have reprioritized my priorities to
hmm,
family first and business second. Whereas before it was the reverse. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's a shift we all make, and thank you for sharing that personal piece with us too. I think if you're open to it, I want to ask you a question about that time in
Yeah,
your life.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, what self leadership attributes or practices or the reflection that had to go into managing yourself and your relationship and your future, what was it about that time that allowed you to continue to keep showing up, to not be knocked down completely by an event like that, but actually not only show up for you and your wife, but for your businesses that were growing and needed your presence and your leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult moment. October 2019. For the first week or 2 weeks, I was just hiding in my room. It really hit me hard. I think it hit me uh, harder than, I wouldn't say harder than my wife. That's a little selfish, but it just hit me really hard. My family was very understanding. My staff was very understanding. But at the same time, as I was grieving, I realized that, like you mentioned, I have a business to run. I have a wife that needs me
Yeah,
as her husband, that needs me to be strong.
yeah,
And so I think, it's just part of life too. The world just keeps on spinning with or without you. And so I took it a hard way where, hey, I mean, I can just be here in my room for a whole month, for a whole year, and go into depression, or I can make something out of it. And I've been comfortable enough to even talk about it today, because I know it's very common, actually, in
it
this.
is.
I think in the society we live in, it's been made like a taboo.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk about miscarriages. You don't even share that you're pregnant until you pass and XYZ date, right?
Yeah,
After 3 months or 6 months, you don't share with anyone. But I think it's a little sad to hear, once, especially as a couple, first time couple who are having their first baby and they find out they're pregnant. You want to
yeah,
share it to the whole world.
yeah,
It's sad to hear the society tell you, or the doctor tell you, well, you might not want to share for 2 more months because XYZ might happen.
right.
So it's a little taboo, and thankfully I've been able to, understand and come to peace with it and talk about it freely, because I hope someone, whoever hears this podcast, can relate as well, that we're they're not alone. It's a difficult topic to talk about,
Yeah,
especially if it's your first kid. But it's very common, and it's just sad to see this society just try to hide it. Um, but yeah, I think just having to stand up, be there for my team, be there for my wife, also very important, and grieve together with my wife as time goes on. It never goes away. It will never go away, but it's something that we got to live with, and also share. I think sharing
yeah,
is part of the healing as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you doing. I mean, I have several friends and family in my own network who have gone through something similar. And I remember our own journey where the doctor, we had a challenging pregnancy, and the doctor said, it's not looking good, but you're young and there's an opportunity for you. I mean, we were shocked by the doctor just
Right.
sort of so casually saying, like,
Exactly.
this may not work out. And just thinking, wow, this is
Right.
our first experience with this, how are we supposed
Hmm.
to process that? But you describe such strength, Phil, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because the strength that you're describing isn't denial, it's not dismissive, it's not, turning yourself off to the world. You're not acknowledging the need for that time, the need to grieve, the need to be there for your partner, but also recognizing that there are other aspects of your life that need your attention and
Right.
need your energy, but giving yourself and your family that time first sounds like it was really important to you, has allowed you to heal in a really healthy way despite obviously an incredibly challenging situation.
Right.
um,
Right.
and while no one would wish that upon anybody,
Oh no.
you seem very much stronger for it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's an experience that, like you just mentioned, I wish on no one, but in reality, it does happen, and it'd be nice to hear more of these stories.
Yeah,
To be honest, from everywhere in the world, because just to let everyone know that is going through it, that they're not alone.
yeah.
It's more common than they think.
Well, again, I mean, when we talk about challenges and we talk about, overcoming obstacles in leadership, and we're thinking, okay, a difficult employee, or we're thinking, okay, some disruption in the economy, we're not always immediately thinking about personal, personal loss or tragedy. And again, our minds don't immediately go there because those are difficult things to think about. They're difficult things to talk about. But in our leadership journey, there could be any number of things that disrupt, how we expect things to play out, or the way in which we show up. And I think your story is incredibly powerful, because what you're showing is, yeah, I could have just thrown my hands up and said, like, forget it all. This has rocked me to my core, understandably.
Right,
And
right,
a decision that you had made to lead this family business could have not only become, sort of a lesser priority, it could have just been completely out of mind altogether. And
right.
I think a major lesson from what you're sharing is this sort of story of resilience and faith and gratitude for having the people around you to support you, whether it's family, whether it's like you mentioned, staff members being understanding and helping to pick up the slack when you needed
Right.
them to. Um, that's a testament to your leadership, because of what, how you've positioned yourself out there in the world in your business. So when you think about now, as your beautiful family grows, and you are carving out this time and you're making them a priority, how did you create that practice of delegating in a way that was comfortable for you, natural for you, and also productive for the business?
Well, yeah, I think it touches a little back on the trust topic that we were
Mm,
talking about, and also on the way you treat others is how you want to be treated yourself. I think that touches a little on that as well. But more than anything, on the trust, the story that I just explained and shared right now, and you know the people who have stuck with me until this day, they know that story.
yeah,
And so once you become vulnerable and you open up to them, they have become vulnerable themselves, and they have felt comfortable to share their personal stories with me. And I think that's where the trust comes in. And so with that trust, I mean, trust goes a long way. I'm
yeah,
sure you know this. And work is work. That's one thing. But the way you have a relationship, not just, I don't want to say a coworker, but with someone, the relationship that you build with that person, whether it be a friend, family relative, or in my case, a fellow coworker, you know, that means a lot. And that's where you can really, to answer your question, you can delegate, you can trust that person to do the job. And of course, we're all not perfect. I'm not perfect. They're not perfect. But if you catch those mistakes and you, whether it be training, whether it be implementing systems so it doesn't happen again, you also got to develop a culture in the business where you're willing to speak out about the mistakes that you do make. You don't want to always hide them, because if you hide them, the next person that comes in might just
yeah,
do the same mistake. So I've been fortunate enough to create a culture where mistakes are brought up, and if mistakes are not brought up and they're found out later, we hold each other accountable. We ask them, "Oh, how come you didn't bring it up?" And so it's nice to have that open communication, that trust within each other. And once I am able to create a leadership team that shares the same values that I share, and we both have that same trust, that just trickles down to the rest of the company. So I think it's key to develop the culture as well,
yeah,
all involved around the values of trust and
yeah.
open communication.
Yeah. God, there's so many gold nuggets in there, Phil. I mean, that the you nailed it. You cannot have vulnerability we cannot have trust without vulnerability.
Right, right,
And that vulnerability, going both ways, is what allows us to see each other as humans. It's what allows each other to understand one another's values and sort of essence, um, so that if and when there's a challenge that arises, whether it's a tragic event or it's something disruptive in the business, there's there's a sort of a coming together
right.
of team members. And again, team members can be team members in an organization, but team members as family members as well,
Oh
where
yeah,
they understand you and know you because of what you've shared with them and what they've shared with you. You understand their intentions, And then you mentioned also this sort of safety and comfort around making mistakes and that being okay, because that's where we learn, that's where we grow. That's another
Exactly.
huge takeaway. I think anybody who's listening can appreciate having worked at a place where they made a mistake and they were, you know, quickly scrambling to cover up their mistake because they were afraid of being
Or
found
getting
out or
or
getting
getting
fired
fired.
or right,
Right.
exactly. Whereas it's actually that comfort and safety of speaking up, either one to disagree with leadership and raise that in a polite professional way, or to say I've made a mistake, I want to take ownership and accountability for it.
Yes.
What can we do to avoid this next time?
Right, right. And I think if you find the right people to, like you just mentioned, to own up to their mistakes, that person, him or her, is just another is a people that I would like on my team, and
Yeah,
I think those are very special to find in the society we live in, where we all want to be perfect,
yeah,
we all want to look the best on social media. We never want to show our downside, and that goes back again, touching back on vulnerability, on building trust. Once you share the imperfections that I have to my team, they understand that I'm a human as well. We all make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them.
yeah,
And it goes both ways, vice versa.
yeah. Well,
Right.
and you're really giving a lot of weight and placing a lot of importance on culture, which I think any leader can appreciate. I mean, some people think culture is just a buzzword, but when you realize that culture is what it's the glue that holds your organization together, it's what creates
Hmm.
functional communication, it's what attracts the right talent. And when your
Right.
culture is authentic, it's built on trust, you realize that the people who are aligned with that are attracted to you and come in and stay. Those who aren't, come in and maybe don't align or don't conform to that culture, and they go off and find other opportunities, and that's okay, because
Right.
ultimately you're trying to maintain that culture so that when you need to step away, whether it's for an event or for family time or because your attention is needed elsewhere,
Hmm.
you've got people on your team that support you and are bought into what your vision is and what the culture is. I
Right.
love
Right.
hearing
Oh
that.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, there's no right or wrong culture.
Right.
As there's billions of people in the world. You can't say one culture fits all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about finding the culture that actually you want to create as a leader. Um, and if you find someone who fits in your culture and goes vice versa, that it fits their values as well, their personality. You find a good match. But there's no right or wrong culture. It's just
Yeah.
what fits you, what you think is best.
And you even mentioned something earlier where you said, which I certainly subscribe to, this sort of golden rule of like treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think it now as a leader can go slightly even further where it's treat people the way they want to be treated, you know, because you're hoping that the people that you have around you are people who who agree that there's a certain decorum, there's a certain culture fit that you're going for, and of course you want to be treated in a certain way, but you recognize that people are different and that individuals need, kind of that individual unique approach. And if that unique approach then fits into the broader culture, you've got like sort of the perfect recipe, for success. I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. Yeah.
so I mean, I we just that answer you gave me alone is something that we could easily go down a rabbit hole on, because I love that topic around culture. I certainly love it about vulnerability and trust. Um, but one last question I have for you as you're thinking about these leaders and what they think they could really focus on. What's one particular area that you think leaders should focus on to enhance that skill set or to make a positive impact on the world as leaders?
I think leaders, one thing they should focus on is really just listening, listening to others. As leaders, many of us have an ego. Many of us think we can lead, we are a leader, listen to us. This is what we're going to do, and follow me, right?
Mm,
But as leaders, it's very, very important, in my opinion, is to listen to others, whether it be listening to the whole world, what is the world in need of, what does the world want, or to a smaller scale, what does, as a leader of a family, let's say, as a leader of two kids or a partner, what do they need from you, or what are they looking for from you, whether it be time, whether it be entertainment. Sometimes we get so stuck in the leadership role that we think that they just look up to us for an answer, and we got to give them an answer, yes or no, like it or not. This is where we're going to go. Oh, this is what we're going to do this weekend, or this is what the company vision is.
mm,
And we forget to take the time and sit down with them, either in a meeting at a company or at a dinner table in a family environment, and ask them questions, ask them what they want to do, what's making them happy at the moment, what are they struggling with at the moment, or what would they like more of, what would they like less of. I think as leaders, it's very important to, once again, you got to build that trust. But in order to build that trust, you got to ask them for the trust first.
yeah.
Um, and so I think it's very important to just listen and as simple as take notes or implement what they want as well, what everyone else wants.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all want to be heard. Listening, Phil, I think that's a great one, and certainly one that I had to learn on my own leadership journey was to listen more, um, to ask questions that gave people an
Right.
opportunity
Exactly.
to share their points of view and their perspective and their
Hmm.
thoughts and feelings about certain things. And we could all benefit from listening more. As I know people will certainly appreciate having listened to you. I have definitely appreciated and enjoyed listening to you today. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time, Phil. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate this very much, Hakeem. Thank you for inviting me over. It's going much better than I expected. Very happy to be here, and I'm sure we'll connect again.
Yeah,
Good
we
luck.
will. And I wish you all the success, and I will be at that grand opening soon enough. I'm excited
Coming
for
soon.
that and
Absolutely.
excited for your continued success. And lastly, Phil, I wanted to ask you, so you've got these 6 locations with the seventh opening up soon. How can people find you? How can people come visit you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have three brands. We have Yip, which is our dumpling shop. You can find us in Aventura Mall, Sawgrass Mills Mall, Wynwood, Doral.
Mm,
You can search our website, yipmiami.com. And we are about to open an Asian food hall out here in Pembroke Pines, opening in November 2023. So follow us on Instagram as well, Baoshi Food Hall, sorry, or BaoshiFoodHall.com.
awesome. Can't wait. Thanks, Phil.
All right,
So
Hakeem.
as always, I'd love to hear from all of you about the episode. What came up for you as you think about leveling up your own leadership game? And please, if you enjoyed the episode, I encourage you to like and subscribe. If you want to contact me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Hakeem Lockdar at LocdarCoaching.com. Thanks for tuning in. Keep being great, and we'll see you next time.